Okay, well, folks, we're going to start the show at Uptown Villa Park. Technician that does all the work here and everything else is Al Stasch, and Sid Bergh is next to me, and I'm Dennis Keating. I'm going to turn it over to Al.
You got it, thanks. Hey, Dennis, you're all right. And next to me is our own Sid Bergh. Hi, Sid, how are you?
Listen, if I was any better, Al, I'd be you.
That's right.
And
No, I'm glad to have you guys because this time we are going to talk about something that's coming up here in Villa Park, and that is the 100-year anniversary of the incorporation of Villa Park. That's going to be the theme of the show tonight. Are you ready for that?
I am ready, but I have to tell you, I've got a problem.
What?
When I was getting ready, I sat on my glasses, and they've been out of shape, so I can only see a little bit. And to top it off, my bridge got a little loose in the teeth. So if I got talking, if it doesn't make too much sense, and Dennis says I don't make too much sense.
Well, you got a handicap today.
I've got a
give you
handicap.
Okay.
Al, before we get going, there's a couple of clarifications. I think we made mistakes in the past shows.
And we are not in the business of making mistakes, are we?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. But we always come back and correct them. So there's three things that we want to cover that one of us stated in our last show that we want to correct. And first of all, it has to do with Lombard and Villa Park sales tax rates. Okay? I went online and checked not only the State of Illinois Department of Revenue site, but also the Lombard site, which helped clarify some of the things. And first of all, Villa Park's sales tax rate is 7.75% for general merchandise. For certain qualifying foods and medicines, it's 1.75. So you'll see different rates on your receipt. And in fact, I can verify that. I went and bought a lawnmower at Walmart, and the rate was 7.75% here in Villa Park. Okay, and Dennis pointed out something that I wasn't aware of, and we just want to clarify, and that is in Lombard, in certain sections, the rate changes. And you pointed out that at Yorktown, it is more than the standard 8.25 in all of the other places in Lombard. It's actually 10.25 because they have two kickers. One of them is a 1% rate for all of the new stuff that's in the outlots of the Yorktown Center. That's part of the old Montgomery Ward property. And the second one is for sit-down eating restaurants. There's another 1.1% kicker. So if you go into a place like that and sit down and eat, you're going to be paying 10.25% sales tax, 8.25 for general merchandise everywhere else, and also food and medicines is 1.75. That's pretty much standard.
And let me point out and emphasize that our rate is 7.75 and Lombard's is 8.25, or 0.50%, a half a percent higher in sales tax, which doesn't mean too much when you're spending $1, but when you're spending a couple hundred, like it can come up and make a big difference.
Right. So we concur now, Dennis, on the rates?
Concur on that.
Okay.
Now, the next thing is about the motor fuel tax.
I got more about sales tax. I want to compare this 7.75% to our neighbors. Okay, we just said that Lombard is 8.25. Addison, Bensonville, Glen Ellen, Glendale Heights, Lombard, Oak Brook Terrace, and Wheaton are all 8.25.
In short, we have the lowest sales tax rate that the village itself charges. That's us.
Correct. And where it's higher is in Cook County sections of Oak Brook, because they have DuPage and Cook County in their jurisdiction. And where it's lower is in Elmhurst, 8%, not lower than us. We're still lowest. The only other place where it's 7.75 is the DuPage County sections of Oak Brook. Okay? So in the past, we have tried to increase the sales tax rate by 0.5%, which we are allowed to do locally, and earmark that for infrastructure like streets, sewers, etc. And that did not pass. So we're going to look forward to more discussion about sales tax. I keep wanting to say income tax. Sales tax going forward.
And that just simply means that check in Villa Park when you're buying something. You can save. We know we're going to save a little bit of money when you go out to buy a big item.
And where that the alternate discussion about that is, if we add a half percent sales tax, we could get 1 to 1.5 million for streets and be par with everybody else and not above anybody.
Okay, now just so you know that when you say 7.75, that doesn't mean the village is getting 7.75.
No,
The village is getting the 1.5%
Right,
of that sales
right.
tax.
So we could get another half percent if we did something with a
Yeah,
referendum. Okay?
okay.
Well,
Sounds good. As long as you understand that we do have the cheapest sales tax rate. However, the village does not get that 8.25% or 7.75.
Right.
We get, what did we say, 1 point?
1 point right now. We're trying to get
point
it
is our,
1.5 right now.
is
Yeah.
what we get to help us keep our own particular tax burden down.
And also, motor fuel tax. We talked about that and said how that could be applied to streets. And that is true. Motor fuel tax is 19 cents a gallon here in the state of Illinois. So when you pump a gallon of gas, you're paying 19 cents to the state of Illinois. And it's collected by the Illinois Department of Transportation, or at least administered by them. But the 19 cents does not come back to the Village of Villa Park. Just as we said, the sales tax does not come back in whole to the Village of Villa Park. It gets broken down in a lot of ways, and there's a list of things that take away from that fund. First of all, there's a diesel fuel transfer that goes to diesel fuel construction, State Boating Act fund transfer, grade crossing transfer, 3.5 million out of 11 million, so it's a big percentage. Revenue administration expenses, so the Illinois Department of Transportation takes some money out to administer the system, and refunds to non-taxable users, so those people that should not be taxed for anything, tax exempt. But what that means is there is a fund that's being built up from the motor vehicle tax for infrastructure that includes any public works project, not just streets, but signs and actually, I found out this morning, emerald ash borer replacement is part of that. That comes out of that fund. And in Villa Park, the fund balance sounds high, but a lot of this money is earmarked already. The Villa Park balance as of May 6, 2013. What's today's date?
9.
See, 3 days ago. This is how up to date this show is.
Boy, keep watching, Ken.
May
Keep
6th.
watching.
May 6, 2013. The fund balance for the Village of Villa Park is $3,491,689.69. I'm surprised that it's that high.
I
You
wouldn't
gotta,
be
you gotta have a
because,
reserve for EPA, always in that account. You always gotta have a reserve for EPA in case of a major problem.
There's a lot of things reserved in that. Yes, yes.
And you gotta have a reserve, the EPA always wanted a reserve. Well, who's paying your street over there on Kenilworth?
Who's paying for it?
Yeah,
Don't have a clue.
probably coming out of,
This fund.
some of this fund.
Yeah. And also, we talked about the fund that comes back to us from York Township.
Yeah.
Part of what's collected in your property tax bill. Okay? So, and then we had one other, unless there's more to talk about that. You guys good with that?
well, I just wanted to say that the village, even though, village government, township government, county government, state government, and U.S. government generally run slow. So it takes a while. Now, when your street is being, talks about being repaired, money that we think will be coming in has to be used, earmarked for that street, and the street has to be engineered, because we don't know for sure what has to be done underneath that street, whether there's the water mains may have leaked, sewers may have leaked and eroded some of it. We may have a big
And Vitas and all of the engineering staff in our public works works with our IDOT department to get those funds allocated after those engineering studies are done. Good
And
point.
There was a thing that happened right here in Villa Park some years back when we put the elevator on the Village Hall. They found out that there was, for practical purposes, an underground stream running underneath the Village Hall, and they had to do quite a bit of additional work that, of course,
Yeah,
cost more.
always things you find out. Okay, another thing we talked about, and this was something that I said, that the Sears homes, when they arrived on the trains, on the flat cars, all the parts, the 30,000 parts that you mentioned, Sid, that were made, sent out of the Sears catalog to homeowners here to build their home, we said that that went through Pioneer Garden, and in fact, that's incorrect. It came in on the Great Western Trail tracks, and it was processed through Villa Park Material, which is now a landscape company on Villa Avenue. So now we are absolutely 100% correct in everything we say. They're thinking.
I'm glad
No,
you've got
we-
your fingers crossed.
We're trying, folks, and you don't forget now, this is just our opinions now. Everything we talk about, he did research on some of it, but when you do research on the internet, you know, some of the stuff is not true anyway. But it's our opinion. We could disagree with you, I could disagree with Sid, but, we're just here talking about things. Your opinion does count too. So tell us what your questions are. We want to hear from you too. And how do they get such a, how can they?
Go to www.tvvpstyle.com and look for contact information. Send us the email. Dennis and I get it right away. Sid will share it with that. But we want to hear from you. We want to know what's going on. And we'd like to add something next week where we're going to ask you to call in, and we'll explain what that's all about as we get through the show here.
We'll take 1 week at a time. We're just going on the air first.
Yeah, we have no idea what's going on right now.
No.
Could be, garbage going on cable, but we're looking at a monitor. It appears to be okay, so hopefully it's good.
We're doing this on Thursday morning and May 9th. So if you see it Saturday or Sunday morning, you can't catch up with us because we're not in the studio. But some of you have our phone numbers. You call us anytime. We're going to try to, and we don't have all the answers, folks, but we're trying to inform the public, see what we need. We need streets fixed. We need other. But where does that money come from? That's what we're trying to figure out.
And how do we get more when we need it, because we do.
Okay, now we're going to go on a few other things. Activities in town. Al, what do you got going this next week?
Well, let's start out. You just said it's May 9th today as we're recording this, and we're out live on the network. Tomorrow, May 10th, that's Friday night, and then Saturday, May 11th, is the Villa Park Men's Garden Club plant sale at Cortese Park, which is just off of Kenilworth and Villa. You'll find it at the old Great Western Trail depot site there. You just go in there, there's going to have tables set up, and the materials that are being sold there, the vegetable plants, the annuals, the perennials, all of them have been grown at the greenhouse, which is along the Great Western Trail there, by the Villa Park Men's Garden Club. And it's offered for sale. This is one of the big fundraisers for the Garden Club, so we want people to go out and enjoy that and participate by purchasing from that sale.
Okay.
You going to go, Sid?
I think I will if the tomato plants look good enough. Oh,
Let's just
I'm sorry, guys and girls.
You got a picky guy. Okay, Dennis.
I'm just going to keep going in order now. May 15th, what's going on?
May 15th is the Seniors and Law Enforcement Together meeting at Lions Park Community Center. That's at, I believe, 11 a.m. And that's being run by Villa Park Police Department, Tyson Johnson, and he'll have an agenda for people there, as well as the Villa Park Senior Commission. They are involved as well. That includes people like Hosanna Korniecki, our clerk, and others who have Bob Allen, who are part of that group, and they're looking for more input from our seniors. So all seniors can come to the Lions Park Community Center, May 15th at 11 for that meeting.
Okay, and Sid's turn now. On May 27th, we got the Memorial Day. Memorial Day is coming, folks, very quick this year. And what's going on Memorial Day?
Memorial Day starting about 11 o'clock, maybe a little right in that area. I call it VFW time. We're going to have a memorial service for those that have passed, specifically in this past year, or actually since last Veterans Day. It's going to be also talking about people who have gone since the dawn of our country. Some over 1 million people, well over 1 million people, have died in the service in defending our country and keeping us as good as I believe, the greatest nation on earth. And again, we may have a lot of faults, but we beat just about everybody else. There's going to be also, from Sterling Funeral Home, we'll have a balloon release commemorating those who have gone. And that'll be about 11 o'clock. And after that, we'll have a light lunch of some type in there. And to those of you who have never seen the inside of the building or haven't seen the inside of the building yet, we invite you to come along and watch and take a look and see how beautiful the inside has turned out. You know, the outside was okay from the fire, but the inside was almost completely gutted. Not quite, but almost.
Okay, speaking of that, June 1st, what's going on?
June 1st, we have a big fundraising open house thing. It's going to be running from around noon to whenever. And there's all sorts of entertainment has been planned, again, to look at things, a lot of fun things. Raffles, and things to do. In fact, I'll have the chairman of this, Mac, on next Monday night. We'll do it live Monday and then
On
put it
Channel
on
6,
tape.
Channel 99.
On Channel 6 and Channel 99 to give a complete rundown of what's happening. But the money raised will be used to help defray the expenses of the building that the insurance didn't cover, and some of the possible improvements that we have made.
Okay. Al, another question for you, Don. First Tuesday of the month, I still hear air raid sirens. Why do we still need them? And what do they do?
Very important this time of the year because we're getting into the season where we're going to have more and more severe thunderstorms. And even more to talk about is the fact that the weather patterns have changed. Over the years, we can anticipate that if there is going to be a severe storm, usually it comes in about late afternoon, 4 o'clock. Now, all of a sudden, those severe storms are coming in overnight when we're sleeping. And what is true, no matter what time of day, is that there is a warning system that is operated by DUCOM, not the Village of Villa Park, but DUCOM, to signal when a severe storm is pending. It might be a tornado warning, might be a tornado watch. It could be one of those things. So there's a lot of things that we need to cover in terms of what to do when you hear that siren. In the event, and I'm going to read directly from the fire department's listing about this. In the event of a severe weather sirens are activated, residents will hear a 3 to 5 minute steady signal of the sirens. When you hear the sirens during severe weather, seek shelter in the most interior room of your home or office. You should avoid the outside walls and windows. An interior bathroom, closet, or other room is generally the safest location. Cover yourself with pillows or get under heavy furniture for protection. If you have access to a radio or television, tune to a local channel to listen for essential emergency information. All local channels will interrupt programming to issue tornado warnings and advise you where the tornado is located. Please do not call the fire or police department to ask why the sirens are sounding unless there's an immediate assistance needed in your home. So you will hear, as you did just this last Tuesday at 10 a.m., a test of those sirens. It will not go off if there is a pending weather situation. They won't sound the alarm so there's no confusion. And also, there is no all clear signal. There used to be years ago they'd hit it once or something and they would say all clear. You have to monitor the local weather to make sure that everything is clear.
Al, can I ask you this?
Yes.
When you're talking about local stations, you're talking about local broadcast stations. Is
Right.
that correct? You won't see it.
2579.
Yeah, you won't see it on Channel 6 or Channel 99.
No, we don't have the staff to put that out there. It just does not come on automatically, and we don't have, because someone has to do that. We don't have anybody that can do that for us when it's needed.
And we have one other advantage in our town, part of town. We have the golf course. When their siren goes off too, we know that ahead of time too.
Yeah, and that's for lightning.
Lightning
They
and
have a
thun-
lightning
yeah,
system out there.
We always do.
And then there's another thing that a lot of us have who have satellite, and that is our satellite system goes out
Yeah.
when there's a pending storm.
Are they gonna use the air raid sirens for when it comes in the World Series or anything?
No,
No more of that.
no more there.
Okay.
Well,
That's because it's not at the front desk at the police station anymore.
We
We're
don't.
gonna have to take a break here, Al.
We're going to skip over a break.
We're gonna skip over the break. That's what I said. We're gonna skip over the break.
There's a break. Nod your head, and we're done. Okay.
Okay.
Now we want to get into something that we said we would talk about, which is the fact that we are about to have a 100-year anniversary in the town of Villa Park. And None of us were here for all of that time, but we were, all of us, all three of us have been here for a significant amount of time. Me, the youngest, only 36 years, and you two guys longer. But there are several things that we want to mention about the Village of Villa Park so that we can entertain ideas of how do we celebrate this 100-year centennial. And a couple of things come to mind, first of all. First of all, Dennis, when was Villa Park incorporated? And tell us a little bit about whether it was Ardmore or Villa Park.
Villa Park was incorporated August 8th, 1914. And it was, how they got Villa Park named for as far as we can find is Villa Avenue and Park Avenue were two streets. And that's how they got Villa Park out of that.
Right, the name, actually, yeah.
The actual name. Second of all, the first meeting was September 12th, 1914 from the village board.
Okay,
And they met, you know, we're not supposed to bring church and government together, but they met in a church. Community church, it was at 235 East Highland Avenue at that time.
Community Congregational Church.
That's right.
Okay,
And it was there. And it was there is a committee being formed right now through the Historical Society to get volunteers to get going on this. So
Yeah.
if you want to join, Carol Marcus is in charge of it right now. And we'll get more information as we go along for you. But they're looking for volunteers and stuff like that. At that time, Villa Park was known for, we had more churches than we had bars. What a change that.
we kind of switched around, or come close to even for that,
Yes.
situation. But you mentioned Carol Marcus, who is the chairman of the Villa Park Historical Society and also a member of the Villa Park Museum organization, commission. And that organization is going to do the official celebrations. But people should, through all the organizations, for example, Ardmore School, for a year of their calendar school year, celebrated their 100-year anniversary because they came before incorporation of the village. They came 2 years before.
Community church was before the village too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, each of those organizations has a special role in the celebration
yes,
of this
right.
100 years. So we call upon all of the organizations that have been around for a while to start planning now for this 100-year celebration. And, you know, we can have the official celebration, we can incorporate that. If you have some ideas, get them out there now. Don't wait until the last minute when you say, oh, we don't have enough time. This is a big event. 100 years, you're not going to see this again. We're not going to be here for 150. So let's get something great going in this village, something entertaining, something that can be a nice event for everybody, young and old. You know, the little kids are not going to listen to something about what happened 100 years ago in a speech. We need something for the kids. We need something for the adolescents that are out there, the teenagers. We need something that helps them be a part of the celebration. Go ahead, Sid. You were clearing your throat to say something.
Yeah, now I have a senior moment. I forgot what I was going to say.
Okay, we'll come
No,
back. So while he's thinking, let's go back to the website, www.tvvpstyle.com. Go there and tell us what you think should be part of the celebration for the 100 years of Villa Park. And then next week, we're going to try to get call-in so we can hear directly from people. So write it down, have it ready for 11 o'clock next Thursday, and see if we can't get you on the air to tell us what you think we should do for a Villa Park celebration.
If
Sid.
there are people that remember Pioneer Days in, I believe it was 48 and 49, where there was a humongous celebration at where Lions Fields is now, and it ran from Villa Avenue to Euclid, right along what is Railroad Avenue in there, and part of the baseball field. At that time, it was owned by the Villa Park Baseball Association. If you remember Pioneer Days, it was great. I can tell you that Bob Eccles owned a place called the Main Tavern, that he transformed it into the Lucky Seven or something like that.
Okay,
And
well,
it
let's talk about
and
some.
then too, we did have a big. There's people that got to remember that. I think it was the 50th or 75th anniversary back in the
Jubilee.
early 50s.
75th, probably. You had 75th later than that.
It would have to be the
50th,
50th,
yeah.
where we had a big pageant. It was a week-long affair, and people were planning that from for almost a year, for a good 6 months in advance was the actual planning.
I think there should be a parade. I think there should be a queen and a court. I think there should be all kinds of things like they do for a regular lilac parade in Lombard. This is a big deal.
I was making some memory jogs here.
Yeah.
Was exactly the same thing, but for 100 years, we could have, maybe some prizes or convince the businesses in town to decorate. And he could decorate however the theme would be. We had have to have a theme. The theme would be involved around 100 years old. And, of course, home decorations, and which we do now. Our, what is the commission you're on? Or the,
Community Pride.
Community Pride
does it, yeah.
Commission does something like that. And it could do
For the
that.
holidays, yeah.
Carnival rides, a flea market. You mentioned the King and Queen. We could have a big ball,
Maybe at
not
the
a
Odeon.
dance.
At the
Yeah,
Odeon.
the Odeon would be more than happy to
Call
have
Phil
that.
Greco.
And we could even have, I'm wondering if we could put Dennis in a tuxedo and have a formal dance, a black tie, or
Why not?
maybe, I don't think we could go far enough to be a white tie, but, and of course we have the king and the queen and
Right.
princesses, and any other things, activities that we could think of, that you could think of.
Sounds good. Let's get our input from our viewers
Get on the
in the
committee,
community and
folks.
get on these
the
committees.
committee. Committee.
In your own organization, start planning, get something going. Let's make sure that we do a big deal for the centennial celebration for the Village of Villa Park. Again, the anniversary being August 8th, 2014.
And one other thing, in all my career in life, I've said when we're going to do things, especially volunteer things, we're going to get the job done, but we're going to have a lot of fun doing it.
That's a good idea. Now, let's go to another part of this that, when we talk about Villa Park and the history of the centennial, I want to talk about things that are gone but not forgotten.
Oh, I got,
You got a list, huh? Okay.
I jotted down a few things myself, and I'm sure Dennis has got more.
Now, I'm gonna just tick through a couple of these, and I want to talk about each of them individually. Right now, Villa Park has churches, gas stations, taverns,
Pawn
municipal building, pawn shops, cigarette stores,
We kept up with the time, folks.
and hair care facilities, a lot of salons. We had other things,
There
too.
were salons and saloons.
We had other things
Sorry about that.
in Villa Park in the past that have gone away. And in the time that I've been here, these items that I'm going to tick off have gone away. And the first one, well, this was before me, the first one is Villa Park once had at least one, maybe more, movie theaters. We don't have one now. Villard Movie Theater, which was in the Cortese Park area, right off of, I think it's
Excuse me,
Myrtle,
that's Veterans Cortese Park.
right off of Myrtle, I believe, Veterans Parkway.
Myrtle and Kenilworth.
Right, Myrtle and Kenilworth. Now it's being rehabbed for different things for a developer there. But that was a movie theater, and Sid, you went to that movie theater, didn't you?
My golly, one night we were having Kino or spin-off or something like that, giving away dishes to get people in. And I made the break and was the first kid to get up on the stage so I could spin the wheel. And the judge that came up when he was picked previously, they brought the judge up. It was my dad.
It was your dad?
My
Did
dad.
you win?
Yeah, we won.
That's
No,
a good thing. But the Villard Movie Theater
But
And
did,
we had another
We
theater.
had another theater in town, too.
well, before you do, the Villard Movie Theater is highlighted in our Villa Park Museum. You'll be able to see a lot of the placards that they used and some of the mementos from the theater, which was just a few blocks from the museum. And they did talking movies. Go ahead.
And before the Billard Theater, there was a theater at Cornell and Park, right on the corner there. The building still is in existence.
Mike Hirsch's office. Mike Hirsch's in the office there.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And isn't there a resale shop in there too? or-
And no more.
No more. Okay. But that was a movie theater, and shut down right around probably when Talkies came in, and a group, two guys that were in the real estate business, Kunzel and Fry Realtors, turned that small theater into a roller rink, and it was quite quite popular.
Really?
For a little bitty thing, you could go around in not much more than the circle, not the ovals that you have
Yeah.
these days. And that it was successful enough that they found a tent rink that is a portable rink that they put together, and they put that down on Villa and St. Charles Road, right where the bank building is now, right
Okay.
on that corner.
The HMO,
And they were
Harris
there
Bank,
for,
right.
yeah, they were there from around 1940 to, I think it was 40 and 41.
Okay,
It might have been that 39 and 40.
let's go to now bowling alleys.
Bowling,
There was a bowling alley on St. Charles Road into the 70s, late 70s, that collapsed because of snow.
Snow.
The snow got on the roof.
wasn't that,
and it
wasn't that
collapsed?
the 67 thing?
No, I was here. So I was here
Okay.
after 78, and that went down. I think I was in that bowling alley once. And that is now where you see the pizza restaurant, or the pizza, right in front of Lions Park.
The barber shop and the pizza
Barber
place.
shop
Right.
and dollar store.
Yeah.
Right, right.
And
There was another bowling alley though, right?
Well-
Above the Villard Theater.
the building, the fellow that built that, a fellow by the name of Carl Cohen.
Uh-huh.
Carl and Tess ran. Tess was the prettier part of the duo, and they were above the Billard Theater, and they built the building. They built the building of bowling alley on St. Charles Road and moved out of the Billard building into, at that time, a beautiful new, brand new bowling alley.
But it was built like with a rounded roof, right? It was like
Yeah.
a Quonset hut almost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was the rounded
style.
roof that was popular, that
Yeah.
style that was supposed to hold everything.
Yeah, and it wasn't that the big 67 snowstorm, it was one after that in the 70s that collapsed the roof, and apparently it was too much to rebuild, so they didn't. So we don't have a bowling alley in town. We don't have a movie theater, we don't have a bowling alley. I'm just adding items here for our development to consider. Also,
Okay, now you say that with a nice thing, but do we
Yeah.
need them?
it could be, I'm not sure about the movie theater, but the bowling alley is built into something else, maybe. We gotta consider it.
Well, okay, because the people say, "Oh, we need this in town. We need that in town. We need Starbucks coffee. We got Starbucks coffee now."
Right.
But I mean, do we need all these stuff?
We don't need anything.
A skate park, do we need we have a skate? Do we need indoor skating? The one that was in Elmhurst couldn't make it.
Right.
It's just that they just don't seem to make them no more.
Well, movie theaters are probably going to go slowly and slowly out of business, but they're still pretty popular.
That's right. And there was a big story in the Tribune a week ago about the outdoor theaters,
Yeah,
the drive-ups.
yeah.
To do
The
one
drive-in
in-
theaters,
To
right.
do the one in West Chicago is gonna cost $160,000 for him to convert to digital.
Yeah.
Does he put $160,000 into that? or
Nah, not that. Nah.
Well, they
it-
plan on it. That article said that they planned on, West Chicago did it. Another small thing way down in central Illinois was going out of business
There's
because
only-
they couldn't go digital.
There's only
and-
14 drive-ins in Illinois now.
Yeah. And you're talking about one that's on, is that Roosevelt Road?
No, it's on North Avenue
North
in
Avenue.
West Chicago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've been there too.
We've
It's
been
it's
there,
neat.
we've been there with the kids many times and everything. It was
Yeah.
good. But you can't imagine spending that kind of money, and I don't know what his real estate taxes out there are,
Right,
but his taxes gotta be fantastic, even on a vacant property.
yeah.
And he's
A
got a big
risque
overhead.
joke is coming. A risque joke.
Don't say it.
Uh,
Okay, we're passing over that.
No,
no,
drive-in
no.
theaters. Drive-in theaters. As a promotion, they put on a special announcement on the thing. There is an irate husband coming. So if there was a couple that are reputed to be here that shouldn't be, will they please leave the theater so we can continue on? And they had it set that a car would drive out. 6 cars drove out. That was the Sky High Drive-In in.
The Sky High Drive-In was a wonderful location. I worked there part-time.
What'd you
And
do?
Drive the truck.
The truck that did what?
We drove around and make sure the kids were not drinking beer. We drove around. When you came into the drive-in theater, if there was only one person in the car, they'd take your license plate down.
Ah, okay.
Then they'd call you and we'd go give us that. We'd go find the car. If there was 3 or 4 kids in the car at that time,
You knew they came up out of the bottom or whatever.
yeah, out of the trunk. And we either they had to go back and pay, or else they had to go.
Yeah.
Look what I started.
All right, now let's move on, because we've got a lot more to cover. So Villa Park does not have a theater, Villa Park does not have a bowling alley. A couple other things that were in town were lumber yards.
Yes.
You could go buy a 2x4 in town. I used to walk to Sawhorse Lumber, which was on Harvard and St. Charles, and when they went out of business, I drove to Hillbian, which was on Villa Avenue and the Canadian National Tracks, now a limousine company.
Was that Hillbeam or was that Heinz?
Heinz,
The,
thank you, Heinz Lumber.
Heinz originally was right up on the Great Western, between the right opposite, east of Ovaltine.
East of Ovaltine.
Villa Park Fuel.
No, that was Heinz.
Yeah, but.
East of Ovaltine is Elmhurst.
East of Ovaltine, you would go to the creek before you get to Elmhurst, but you got Monterey, and they were on Monterey.
Also, they were on that space where the phone
Yeah.
company is? Okay, okay.
And then, of course, I know they moved and built that lumberyard down on North Villa Avenue and at that time, the Illinois Central.
Right, and it's Canadian National Tracks now, the
Now,
one that goes
yeah.
under our bridge. Okay, so we do not have a movie theater, we do not have a bowling alley, we do not have a lumber yard in town. So go to Home Depot and Oak Brook Terrace, because they help us. Now, hardware store. Just last week, I went to a hardware store that I thought was still open in Villa Park, and it's not.
Ace Hardware is gone.
And before that, we used to have Krantz Hardware, so we used to have Krantz Hardware on Ardmore, and then before that on Villa. Sid will tell us about that. And now, what was called Villa Park Hardware at the shopping center at Villa and St. Charles is now closed. So we don't have a hardware store in town. Dennis, or Sid, Krantz Hardware, tell us about that.
Krantz Hardware started, again, at 123 south of Villa Avenue. And the brother-in-law of the Crans that started that, they worked together on that, opened up a store on Ardmore Avenue, and instead of calling it Novak, which his name was,
Emil Novak.
he called it another Crans. And it was, I think it started out as Crans on Ardmore. And incidentally, now Emil and John, their sons, are still alive, but old Emil was the one that was the brother-in-law, and that was started back in the, probably sometime in the 30s. And if you wanted to hear the latest in Polish jokes, you went in there, because Emil had them. Emil had, he was Polish, and he would tell those jokes.
Okay.
And by the way, he had people working for him. He must have been somebody that was okay. There was one lad that started working for him when he was in high school as a part-time. He worked when he graduated from high school. He worked full-time for Grants, and he worked there till he died, some 50-some years later.
Wow, that's a long time. Well, another thing
And
that a lot
then
of people are familiar.
you could buy, I would bench you, in a time of superlatives, you could buy a million different items there,
Yeah.
and those guys knew where to get them.
Real great hardware store. I remember going in there myself at Krantz, and also Villa Park Hardware. What was it called before that? There was the name of the guy that owned it. Villa Park Hardware.
Well, Novak owners.
No, Villa Park Hardware, the one at Villa and St. Charles.
The one that was...
Davis.
Davis Hardware.
Davis Ace
And he
Hardware.
went Davis Ace, yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Now,
Okay,
the
see what
one thing
happens.
that a lot of
These
people,
guys are getting old, too.
the one thing that a lot of people remember and talk about in Villa Park, of course, is the Ovaltine factory. And you guys were around when that was shut down, right? As far as village
It was
officials?
it was a very good company to the village of Villa Park. That was one of the best companies the Villa Park ever had.
Yeah.
Ovaltine factory. I did not work for them. I did not know, but they were there when the village needed them. They were there when the bank needed them. The bank during the Depression would have been closed if it wasn't for Ovaltine.
Right.
Ovaltine did supply them with stacks of money that they
Right.
put behind the tellers just to keep people from, try to reassure people that the bank wasn't going out of business.
But I think that when they first opened, I think Sid was right. He says 1914 they first opened.
Yeah.
They built the factory in 1922. In 1917 they started building it.
Yeah.
And they closed in 1988.
Right.
And in 1988, the village of Villa Park had to go through 5 developers to get what we have over there today.
Yeah, the Lincoln Properties at Ovaltine now.
Yeah.
And the Ovaltine factory, though, as you pointed out, came into town, and that's what, they came here because there was farmland around that they could get materials for their products. There was good transportation because of the Chicago, Aurora, and Elgin, and the Union Pacific tracks were there. But they had the capability to bring in employees, and a lot of the townspeople were employees of that company for years, as you point out. And I remember it was still here when I moved in '78, obviously because it closed in '88. And then they moved to Minnesota. Sandos Company, I think it was the name. It used to be called Wander Company. But the guy that came over to build and locate the site and build that from Germany stayed with that company for the rest of his life.
Yep.
He was supposed to come over for a few months, find a place, and move back. And he was the one that was he was the benefactor that did so many things for the village, especially through the Depression when he offered resources to kids. They sent Ovaltine to both World War
They fed them
II.
milk, they fed them coffee, they fed them
Right.
breakfast every morning.
Right.
To a lot of kids in Villa Park.
Right.
And when we had droughts, and we'd have had droughts back before our day even, but the Ovaltine had the deepest well, and they would connect to our water systems
Right.
a couple of times.
We would send a fire truck over there and they'd hook up the pump it to the Ovaltine well. They pump it into our fire hydrant
Yeah.
and pump it into that system.
Yeah.
A little aside, where earlier on we mentioned Doc Cortese and starting the paramedic program in Villa Park. There's another gentleman that was we would consider him a paramedic. He was a combat medic during World War II, and was actually in Europe in tremendous battles. That he told some stories, but he worked for the Ovaltine before he went into service. He came back and he worked in maintenance, became the head maintenance man, and he was the guy that disconnected the electricity for the Ovaltine company.
Yeah, you talked about that last week, yeah.
And he was the guy that actually turned the lights off.
Yeah.
And that was Al
Last man out.
Lucchesi.
What's
Al
his name?
Lucchesi.
Al Lucchesi?
Al Lucchesi. And I was very fortunate to be able to know him and be friends with him. And I had nothing but the greatest respect for that.
Okay, we got to keep going here because we got now 15 minutes and we got a lot more to cover. Another thing that I know, Sid, you'll remember, maybe Dennis, I'm not sure. Chicago, Aurora, and Elgin Railroad that used to go through town, that actually initiated the growth in Villa Park before it was actually Villa Park. And that's a CA&E railroad that went right through town that's now the Illinois Prairie Path. And it shut down on July 3rd, 1957, in the middle of the day. I don't know how many
People
residents
went
of
to
Villa
work
Park,
in the morning, couldn't get home.
they couldn't get home because there was no service
Could not
coming
get
back.
home, that's right.
But they went down because of the start of the expressway system. During
The Eisenhower
years,
Expressway
the
was
Eisenhower
taking that
Expressway.
part, yeah.
But there's a lot of artifacts, again, I talk about the Villa Park Museum, there's a lot of artifacts at our own Villa Park Museum because the museum is actually one of the two original stations, passenger stations in town. There's also a store up front, but a passenger station in town, and that is now our Villa Park Museum at Villa and the Illinois Prairie Path, or Park and Central. And then the second one is at the Ardmore and Illinois Prairie Path, or Ardmore between Park and Central, and that is the Chamber of Commerce offices today. Both are on the historical preservation sites, and they are two of several still active CA&E artifacts in the area, but they are the most prominent ones, our Villa Park Station and our Ardmore Station. There are also some of the train cars that originally went up and down that track at the Illinois Railway Museum and the Fox River Trolley Museum. They have almost 14 or 15 of the original wood cars and metal cars that went down that track, and that was all electric, even back in the 20s and 30s, right?
Well, there's a gentleman with the Historical Society by the name of Frank Carlson.
Yeah.
That has, he can speak for hours on the history of the CA&E. Now, just for a quick thought, the CA&E was not Chicago. It was Aurora, Elgin, and Wheaton. And it was a triangle that was first built. And later on, that was right at the turn of the century, and when electric railroads were the biggest thing in investing at the time. Then they thought it would be good to go into the city.
Yeah, but it was
After
going,
that,
it was going to the city before they came to Villa Park. At the beginning, it only went from Chicago to Cottage Hill in Elmhurst before it went all the way downtown.
Yeah, a lot of people from
Yeah.
Villa Park had to go to
They had
Cottage
to go
Hill to
to
get online.
Cottage Hill to pick it up. And that was before, then after they merged out here and they got going to Aurora and Elgin, then then they added on all the other stuff.
And, but,
And at the end, there was the same thing. At the end in 55, 57, it only went to Forest Park. From out here to Forest Park, then you had to go up to the CTA.
No, they ran for a while down on the street, and they found that Aurora and Elgin couldn't go do that because they were, like the L was, at that time the Garfield L
Yeah.
was going down on the street, and every time they came to the street, they'd have to stop and then go forward because they were doing the railroad or the streetcar tracks.
yeah,
And the
You're
Aurora
not
and
a
Elgin
city- You're
couldn't.
not a city boy, are you? We had yells on all the streets in Chicago. They had the gates going up and down all the time.
yeah.
But the trains have to stop at every one of those things when they came in. It took where you could get downtown from Villa Park, in probably close to half an hour. You could be down in the loop, and that was really a good time before expressways.
Yeah.
And that sold them and was going down. It probably quadrupled the time. It took from half hour to get down to almost 2 hours to get downtown.
And one of the things that was prominent about Villa Park on that line is Villa Park was the most popular station for the CA&E when it's prime. More people got on in Villa Park than even Aurora. So we were designated as the most passengers on their line. So that's a significant part of
You know,
our town.
they had three basic trains running. One was called the Limited, one was called the Express, and one was called the Local.
Right.
And the
They still have those
Limited-
schedules over at the museum to show you that.
The Limited would run from, I think it was from Forest Park. I don't think it stopped at Maywood. And then would run, the first stop would be Limited, it would be Lombard. And that would go at something like 90 miles an hour through Berkeley
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Hillside.
surprisingly, yeah.
It would move.
We got to move on to the more things. We're going to talk about these as we go forward.
One more thing. We're
gotta
going to
move
have
on.
Frank Carlson on I'm going to interview him soon. That's enough.
Glad we got that in. Okay, historic and significant events in Villa Park. I asked my friends here to say, in the last 100 years, or their experience here in Villa Park, which may be 50 years or less, what are the three most significant things related to Villa Park that they have wanted to highlight? And I'll give you mine three right up front, and then they can list theirs, and we'll go on and talk about some of them. We're running quickly out of time here. But here in Villa Park, in this building, we are at the Village Hall, at the Villa Park Trust and Savings Bank, and at, I'm sure, the VFW, were designated as fallout shelters during the Cold War. And what that meant was, in the event that we were attacked by a nuclear weapon, most likely from Russia, and it would hit in the Chicago area, if the wind brought the materials that were excavated during that explosion in our direction, it would be radioactive, and that's fallout. So all of that material would contaminate not only the ground, but people, if they would inhale that, products, everything. So there are shelters built with food already pre-planned, medical supplies, Geiger counters, powdered milk, crackers, etc., in lower levels where people could go to wait it out. And a whole civil defense process to organize those. Now, in a past life, I went into a phone company building in another community and monitored those products all the way through the 70s. So this began right after World War II. There was a Cold War that existed between Russia and the United States, and these fallout shelters were here in the Village Hall, in the Villa Park Bank, Villa Park Trust Bank, etc. Also near us was Nike Missiles in Addison. And Nike Missile is that missile that you see at Veterans Park,
Veterans Cortese Park.
over on Kenilworth Avenue. That was a missile that would be shot up to knock down Russian bombers should they get this far. That was replaced by nuclear missiles that were here in Addison. So we had 12 nuclear bombs in Addison up until 1978, 2 miles from our border in Villa Park. And that, to me, was not just significant, but horrifying. So that's my one. You guys tell your one, and then we'll see if we can come around to others.
We're just going on the same thing that you just talking about, the Cold Wars and stuff like Russia. I was in Chicago in the 40s, and I was a young kid, not, you know.
Yeah.
And we used to have, we have tornado warnings today.
Yeah.
We had the airplanes going over dropping bombs on us in Chicago. They were paper bombs.
Yeah.
And I only remember once they came over and they dropped paper bombs, and you're supposed to have a place to go and supposed to meet at the end. And out here in Wheaton and stuff like that, you talk about bomb shelters.
Yeah.
We had bomb shelters in Villa Park here, but we had bomb shelters in Wheaton. The bomb shelter in Wheaton was in the complex now, and after they got through with the bomb shelter, they used it for many, many years. That's where DUCOM started, the operation of
Okay.
DUCOM out there, in the basement of the bomb shelter
Where
on
that
the
bomb
west
shelter
side
was.
of County Farm Road,
Yeah.
on the west side.
Now, that's something I really didn't know, and that is very interesting.
Give us your one significant event in the last 100 years of Villa Park.
Oh, golly,
One of them.
there is so many, I can't do just one.
Just do one. That's all you get, one. Force yourself.
We talk about how there was no crime back in the 30s when we were growing up, and that's just not so. It's just that we forgot
absolutely
it.
true.
Because there was at that time, unincorporated, it wasn't in Villa Park, but just to the north of us, there was a sheriff's deputy making a routine traffic stop, was shot and killed.
Ah.
And that happened right there, just like things happen now, that when the cops put their hands on their, take the flap off their holster and get ready to pull out, just the same way. And that fella, in those days, that the police would know, would generally say if somebody shot a cop, the perpetuator would be probably shot trying to flee the police.
Yeah. They would do justice right there.
They couldn't, they've caught this guy, but he was taking, when they caught him, he was taking a bath in his girlfriend's house. So here was, how could they say he was trying to escape
Taking a bath.
taking a bath when he's stark
Oops.
naked?
Well, justice changes over time. Speaking about
Oh, we are all the time.
Speaking about robberies or criminal activities, for a while at the Villa Park Museum, they had a little placard that talked about a bank robbery at the State Bank of Villa Park, which is not the Villa Park Trust and Savings Bank. This is the one that's across the street. Actually, Frank Carlson owns that building. And it is also looks like a bank facade, but much, much smaller, across the street on Villa Avenue. And they had a newspaper report about a bank robbery that did occur, and they suspected to be a John Dillinger gang bank robbery. And why did they do that? Because they drove up in a coupe, parked the coupe right in front of the station, the bank. 3 guys got out. One got out with a machine gun and stood on Villa Avenue and stopped anybody walking down the sidewalk and made them hold their hands up. 2 of the other guys went into the bank and got the money from the teller. They came out, jumped in the coupe, took down off on St. Charles Road on St. Charles Road East. Now, the police department at the time was here in the Village Hall. Okay, they were in the basement of Village Hall. So by the time they got the alarm or the notice or whatever, they're a mile away. They weren't near the people before they left. Okay, but the big thing about that story was, is it John Dillinger that made that bank robbery? And that bank robbery has never been solved. I went across the street at the police station and asked them, have you any record of this bank robbery ever being solved? The answer is no. And they're still interested in it. Not that they can solve it because the people are gone now. But I went to an author who wrote and owns a museum specifically about John Dillinger in Indiana. His name is Tony Stewart. And I asked him, is it possible that John Dillinger on this date, on this time, could have been in Villa Park robbing our bank? And the answer is no. He was definitively noticed in Upper Wisconsin on that date, okay? And then the following day in Missouri. He was on the lam because he had escaped from a prison in Indiana. So he was moving about, and they have definitive proof that he was in those 2 sites, not in Villa Park. But does that prove that it was not a John Dillinger gang? affiliate? No. The same method of operation is what they used, having a guy out in front with a machine gun robbing our bank. Now, like you said, has that subsided? Has that type of crime gone away? No. There's still bank robberies, just not in the same way, not in the same style.
Back in 1940, another mobster, Roger Toohey, escaped from Stateville, and his car was found on St. Charles Road between Villa Avenue and Euclid.
Villa and Euclid, okay.
The escape car.
Yeah.
They caught him, I think it was 6-7 days later.
So
but
he's not still in the neighborhood?
no.
Okay, okay, that's good.
No.
Okay. Dennis, you got another one for us?
No, we have no, half of the stuff that we do here, like you said, like this, John Dillinger.
Yeah, rumor,
90% of it is rumors.
folklore, yeah.
Because they used to go through town here constantly, we knew that. Cause Al Capone, we used to go to Hideaway out in St. Charles, he was all over, he was, and they used to go to town. This was known as the party town in
Yeah.
the 40s and 50s.
Yeah. Any
And people-
speakeasies? No.
No, speakeasy, but we
In
had
the
that.
30s, they
we,
were
we had
partying.
some hotels on North Avenue, but that's besides the point.
Okay.
But it was a party town, and people used to come from Melrose Park and come out here to party.
Yeah.
And we used to go to Melrose Park to party.
Yeah,
Oh, the bowling
okay.
alley? Yes.
I got one more on my list then, because Dennis had his, and now let me give mine. Dynamite on the Great Western Trail at Harvard and the Great Western Trail. This is actually a police report, it's not folklore. There was, as many people will know, up through the time that Ovaltine left, there was a one-track railroad line on the Great Western Trail that came from the west through our town and stubbed at the Ovaltine property. And that train would come by, and there was railroad crossings at Harvard, at Ardmore, and at Villa. And this train went down that track and backed out. So it didn't have any turnaround, anything, to just in and out. But in one time in 1939, people found that were walking along the tracks, dynamite underneath the tracks between the railroad ties and the iron on top. And-
Never exploded.
No,
No.
unexploded. There was 300 sticks of dynamite
Wow.
in that location, okay? And the police went out there, of course, and they tried to determine, was there a delivery by chance on a railroad car where it fell off, not intended for Ovaltine, because they don't need dynamite to make Ovaltine, but was there a delivery where that fell off? Nothing on the charter said that there was dynamite there, which is questionable, because if you were going to ship some dynamite and didn't want anybody to know about it, you wouldn't put it on a list.
That's a fancy story now. I don't want to commend it, but our time is up, folks.
We got 1 minute, so
1
we're
minute.
done. We've had fun. We're going to talk about this some more next time, but you've been watching Uptown Villa Park. My name's Al Stasch. This is Sid Bergh. That's Dennis Keating. I'm going to go turn this off, and these guys are going to close it.
Well, it's been a pleasure, and Dennis, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, even if I disagree with you, which we do.
And
But,
the Village of Villa Park has got a new board coming in next week, and we hope you all help the new board out. They need your help, so volunteer to get on the commission.